Welcome to RhomanysRealm. I'm Romany, and today I have a special unboxing for you. This is an Oracle deck that is going live on Kickstarter on April 1st. And I have not only an unboxing to show you, but I also, at the end of the video, have an exclusive interview with the creator of the deck. So stay tuned if you'd like to actually meet Kirstin and find out what the inspiration behind this particular deck was. So it is by Kirstin Bozyk. You may know her online as Wicked Redhead, particularly if you're in my Patreon, you will have met Kirstin before. And this is a Cottagecore oracle that she created, a guided self-development journey through a whimsical cottagey wonderland. Sounds really cute, doesn't it? So let's get this thing open. Excited to see what it looks like. I think I'm the first person to see it outside of Kirstin herself. Okay, here we go. So we've got a nice little booklet. That's cute. I like the way it's stitched together like a little pamphlet. And here are the cards. Ooh, that's a pretty design on the back. Very Kirstin. Poppies and moons. That's very much her aesthetic, as the kids say. Very nice. The cards are big. I mean, I have tiny hands. I have little chubby gnome hands. They are big. They are comparable to the size of the Crazy Sexy Love Notes tarot, or if you've got the Halloween tarot with the skull on the top, they're similar size. They shuffle well, though. They're quite flimsy cardstock, but that I find that makes it easier to shuffle them. Whoops. Probably should have kept them in order, but I like to see how they shuffle first. That's my thing. That's what I do. Normally I cleanse all my decks, but I haven't bothered with this one because it's come from Kirstin directly. So, and it was brand new in the box, so it probably doesn't need it. Yep, shuffles nicely. So the cards themselves have kind of a, they're not glossy, but they're not matte either. They have kind of a satin sheen, which is not unpleasant. I mean, I could use it on camera because it won't, you can still see the picture even with glare. So that's good. So let's have a look at the cards, shall we? We've got Forgive, Outgrow, Strategy, Confidence, Heal, Begin, Duality. I like that one. Connection, Guide, Familiarity, Temporary, The Past, Simplicity, Simplicity, Flourish, Protection, Transition, Reverence, Perspective, Freedom, Acceptance, Cycles, Affection, Commitment, Hope, Oi! progress, trust, slow, wellness. Sorry if you can hear some strange trampling noises in the background. Maddie's making herself a little nest. Oh, inspiration, resilience, heartache, opportunity, invitation, rest, solitude, abundance, distraction, vulnerability. Love this one. That may even be a photo of Kirstin. I'll have to ask her about that one. Curiosity, cultivate, perseverance, ceremony, resourceful. Love that one. Positivity. I like this. I might have to draw this one. And catalyst. So there are 45 cards in the deck altogether. And as I said, it is an oracle deck. Let's take a look at the little guidebook that comes with it. I did notice that she's used a lot of flower imagery. And some of the flower imageries are related to the card, as I noticed as I went through. For instance, the duality card was the foxglove, which is an incredibly beautiful plant, also very deadly. So we've got colour versions of each card in the guidebook and a little explanation of what the card means. This is an interesting one. Heartache. How well do you handle disappointment? A hard fact of life is that things don't always go your way or turn out like we'd hoped. Sometimes we have to roll with the punches, which can feel very raw and difficult. The image of the young woman holding wildflowers over her heart could be symbolic of saying goodbye to what could have been, and possibly even giving yourself permission to mourn what will never be. An important takeaway when experiencing heartache is to let yourself sit with it without letting it define the now. It's not always possible to throw some rose quartz at every inconvenience and to expect to not have to face the truth of your pain. But it is possible to turn every pain and sorrow into a lesson. Even circumstances beyond your control that have caused you pain have a nugget of wisdom within if you look deep enough. Heartache may be asking you to let go, move on, or forgive. Surrender and be free. I like that. It's a very peaceful looking card too, that one. Yeah. So all of the cards, obviously, are in the guidebook. She doesn't appear to have included her information in the guidebook itself. My only criticism of this so far is that this writing is way too tiny. It could have been made quite substantially bigger on the pages, because there doesn't appear to be anything that is taking up the entire page at this size font. So I would have gone for a little bit bigger. It's very difficult to read. But I'm old and I have bad eyesight and I need new glasses. So maybe if you're younger, you won't have a problem. Anyway, that is the Cottagecore Oracle. I think she's definitely captured the Cottagecore part. It's very witchy garden-y. Summer in the garden, spring in the garden. I like it. It's not necessarily the kind of thing that I would go for necessarily, but I do actually like a lot of the images that are in it. I can see how they relate to the word. And I love the writing in the book. I think Kirstin's a very expressive writer, and she's very good at whittling things down to what are the key questions here. She's also an art journaler, writer, artist. So she's very familiar with writing about how she feels about things, pulling cards and journaling, whether through art or writing or whatever, how she feels. So I think she's very much taken that into account when creating the deck. So from that perspective, certainly it's a deck I think I will use. So there we go. That is the Cottagecore Oracle deck from Kirstin Bozyk. It goes live on Kickstarter on April the 1st. And as promised, I have a quick little interview with the creator herself. Please welcome Kirstin Bozyk. Welcome to RhomanysRealm.
Hi, Romany. Thanks for having me.
I really wanted to have a chat with you about why you went for this particular format of Oracle deck. Cottagecore is not my kind of thing, so I don't really know anything about it. What was your thoughts behind it?
Well, we all know the online aesthetic. We all probably are likely familiar with it. Basically, I channeled that aesthetic with my surroundings. I live in the Pacific Northwest. I live on 2.5 acres of beautiful cottagey forest, and it's whimsical and beautiful. And so often I find myself connecting my spirituality to my surroundings. And so if I go out on my walk, I often find that I'm spiritually moved in those situations. So basically what I did is I fused that aesthetic with my spiritual musings and a little bit of some psycho-spiritual elements in there too. I definitely have used what I've learned in therapy to kind of inform some of the card meanings. And I've definitely taken inspiration from both my spiritual, my mental health, and my surroundings.
So I noticed some of the cards. In fact, I mentioned one of the cards. There's a girl in a red dress with red hair. And I actually said that looks like it might even be a photograph of you. Is that right?
So that photo in particular is not, but it's definitely inspired by my property. There are some cards in the deck that are literally my property, photographs that I've taken that I've just basically digitally manipulated.
I thought there was some familiar ones there because I've literally seen you post these kind of pictures on your stories of you in a lovely floaty, witchy, happy dress wandering through your wild garden. So I did recognise a few of them. Are there any particular cards that are special places for you?
Yeah, the familiarity card in particular is my favorite place. It's a place I go to every day. You'll find there's like a body of water in it with some trees, and I go there literally every day. And so that card specifically is really potent to me, along with the outgrow card that has some blackberries in my hand. That picture is my hand. And so yeah, the outgrow card is basically a representation of both the literal overgrown blackberry bramble that I have basically incorporated into a spiritual way. So you'll find in the guidebook that I do my best to really draw those connections.
I love the guidebook. I think the fact that you are an artist, a visual artist, an art journaler, a writer, and a witch really comes out in the way you express things. You obviously have thought about not only what does this card mean, but what questions would bring out more of what I feel about this card. And I really like the way you've done that. Is there any specific thing that you needed to do to get that to come out? Or is that just something that, literally you just wrote it and then made sure it sounded right?
To be honest, there was a little bit of both in the creation process. I definitely was thinking about some themes that are common for me in my life, but I also would observe certain places in my property or around me that seem to speak to those themes. And I actually did create all of the card images first, but somewhere along the way in that creation process, I knew what most of them were already before I sit down to write them. So it's weird. It kind of happened all at once.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because it looks like a really, really, really thoroughly researched deck. But it's so interesting to hear that you're more going off it intuitively, because as a fellow kitchen witch and herbalist, I actually noticed that a lot of the imagery, the flowers and trees and stuff that you actually focused on in certain cards really go with the cards. The foxglove in particular is one of my favorites. The duality of something so beautiful being so incredibly poisonous.
Yeah, that one, you're definitely right about that. That one definitely came to me, knowing a little bit about herbalism and being really interested actually in the poison path. It's kind of a new area of exploration for me.
Poisons and carnivorous plants 101, that's us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
One of my favorite cards in the deck actually is the Heartbreak card, because not because of the artwork or the symbolism, but because of the way you've cropped the image. It's so interesting to me that you managed to portray heartbreak through body language rather than through a facial expression, because you literally just see from there down. And the way she's clutching the flowers to her chest, it just symbolizes that moment of, do I hold on to this or do I let it go? And I really enjoyed that about a lot of the images, that they were cropped in a certain way that it looked like it shouldn't be cropped like that. But then when you look at the meaning of it, it makes perfect sense.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, that image in particular felt very vulnerable, and I liked that her mouth had kind of a Mona Lisa aspect to it, where it could be maybe a little bit melancholic. It could be that maybe she's hiding a little bit of her emotions. So I appreciate you noticing that about it, because that card in particular was very intentional about the way that it was cropped. So thank you.
Most of the cards look very intentional. In fact, from what I've seen of them, they all look very intentional. And I really like the overall, I hate using the word, aesthetic of the deck. Cottagecore is absolutely not me in any way, shape, or form. I'm not flowery. I am gothic to the core. I like dark, I like moody, I like bloody, nasty things and gore, and the sicker the better. I'm good. But even I would use this deck because it just has that slightly lighter feeling, but the colours are very intentional and it doesn't feel gaudy. And that, I think, is one of the things I really like about it. A lot of Cottagecore feels very, I took pastel pink and pastel green and I put them together and look how cute it is. And it doesn't have a cute feel at all. It has a very earthy feel.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was definitely intentional. And I think, again, it goes back to where I'm from, because, like I mentioned, a lot of the cards are my literal surroundings. So it kind of makes sense that it feels a little bit more grounded and earthy. That was very much intentional. So I appreciate
like a true Capricorn.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
So this deck is coming out as a Kickstarter on April 1st. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
And what is the Kickstarter setup? Do you have different tiers and things and options?
I decided this time to just stick with the deck. A lot of other Kickstarters will offer different tiers and different rewards that come with those tiers, but just because I was worried about production, I was worried about being a single human that is handling all of these orders. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to meet all of the orders that would possibly be coming in. So I decided to just stick with the deck, but you can change how much you'd like to pledge. So if you wanted to add, say, like a tip in there, if you feel so inclined, you're able to, or you can pledge the minimum. There's all kinds of options that you can click around in for payment if you decide to pledge.
Cool. And this is your first venture, isn't it? Because you don't even have an Etsy shop that you are constantly running or anything like that. It's just you on your own, first project, let's dive in and give it a go.
Yeah. So it is just me. I have dabbled in the Etsy thing before, but this has really just been the first time that I've decided to fully commit to producing something. And yeah, it was just me.
It's quite a lot of work to do, and I can see why you've gone with the simple option for a first time project, because it's a lot to commit to, especially when you are now a mum, aren't you? Didn't your little one turn 1 recently?
Yeah, she did. She turned 1 on November 1st, my little Scorpio.
Oh,
So yeah, it's been really interesting working on this project alongside being a mom. She's really informed a lot of my creativity. It's really taken off, I think, as a result of being a mom. I honestly expected it to go the other way. I was expecting to have less time, and the time spent with her would potentially cut into my creative time, but it's actually been the opposite. She's really fueled a lot of my creativity. And while my creative sessions might look a little bit different, I might have tiny fingers up on my desk. And if you could see the state of my desk behind you, a lot of it is just, it's because of her, but it's been really fun incorporating my creativity with motherhood.
so that's interesting, because you're an art journaler, you're a journaler, you're a writer, and normally when I've seen people have children, suddenly all that literally disappears and they don't have time for it. That's what you were expecting, but you're actually discovering that's completely the opposite for you.
Yeah, it's definitely been more motivation to create. And honestly, it hasn't been as difficult to adapt to like the schedule changes or adapt to now she's just starting to walk and she's in that stage where she's got to grab everything. But it's been fun. Like I'll sit her on the floor next to me with a big box of colored pencils and she's just sitting there like throwing them up in the air, like joyfully, gleefully sitting next to me, learning how to scribble. And honestly, like being in my studio creating with her has just done so much to spark my creativity. I'm surprised every day.
That's awesome, because I know that's not the experience of a lot of creative mums. They really feel that urge to have more hours in the day to create. Maybe that's why. Maybe they're all feeling that extra creativity, and it's just like, we all need the time. So, is there anything else creatively, project wise, that you've got in the works or you're thinking about doing? Because spoiler alert, I would like to see a tarot deck from you at some point, perhaps when your little one goes to school. You've got a little bit
Yeah,
of free reign.
a tarot deck is definitely on the radar. I've been thinking about it a lot. So we'll see. I'll definitely do some experimentation with that. I have also considered visiting some of the other aesthetics in the form of an oracle deck as well. I know one that you might like is Goblin Core. That's
Goblin
been
core, I
one.
love Goblin core.
Yeah, that's been one that's kind of been on my mind. But yeah, we'll see how it kind of comes together organically. I think once the Kickstarter is over and I get this deck more in the works to be more of a passive income, I want to list it on Amazon first, and then I'm going to visit some local bookstores, possibly Barnes and Noble. And after that, once all I have to do is worry about inventory, I would like to create another deck.
Yeah.
So we'll
It's
see
always
how that
difficult with
kind
the first project. You have to see how it goes
yeah,
first, because there's
that's what
so much learning involved, so much
oh,
learning, so much research. Is there, I want to ask you, is there anything about the deck that you would change if you did a second edition? And
yeah.
I have to say at this point, I have one criticism about this deck. One. And for me, I'm a bit picky about my decks.
Mhm.
My one criticism was the size of the font in the guidebook, because I'm old, I have bad eyesight, I need glasses. I'm Mr. Magoo looking at it like this. And although the handwriting font that you chose, even as a dyslexic, I found it very easy to read, very tiny, very, very
Yeah.
tiny.
Yeah, It's definitely been a big learning curve with the production company, and I totally agree with you on the font size. In fact, I submitted 2 previous samples to attempt to change that, and it that was the best that we could do with the amount of pages that I had in the book. But if I could do a second edition, possibly find another production company to create the book independently of the cards, it has been something that I've been thinking about attempting to change as best I can. I would love to at least double the font size, truthfully, because it's been on our mind too, as far as a potential thing that could be tricky. But I'm glad it was still at least legible.
It's not only legible, but well worth reading. I'm like, oh, a guidebook, how pretty, and I throw it in the corner. One of the things I love is that it's full color, but also the way you speak, the way you engage with your spirituality, your journaling, your art, all of it really comes through in the description of the cards. It is so obvious from the way you've written the descriptions that you've really thought about not what does this card mean, what does this word mean, but how can I best ask questions or provoke thoughts that will allow you as a card reader to figure out what that card means for you. And I find that's missing in so many guidebooks, and I really, really appreciate that in yours.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely my approach to spirituality is how can I translate this to my everyday life? And that was certainly a priority when I was writing the book. I really wanted to consider what each person's different blend of spirituality might be. So I tried to really approach it with that psycho spiritual narrative in mind. So, yeah, I definitely appreciate that you found it approachable, and I hope that other people do too.
I think there's lots of little, and appropriately for this time of year, I think there's lots of little Easter eggs in it, because you really have somehow managed, without doing very much research even, managed to pull your intuitive knowledge of what a cottage garden and what a little garden like, well, it's not little, but what a wild garden like yours really looks like and really feels like in different scenarios, and captured it during springtime when there's so much change going on. And I think you've done a wonderful job. I'm not at all a cottagecore girl, but I can tell you I will be using this deck, especially at this time of year, because it really has the spring vibe.
Oh, I love that so much. And the great thing about the creation and how it's all come together at this point, launching right at the very beginning of spring, is that none of that was even intentional.
Wow.
It
Okay.
all started it all started in the middle of winter. And it was kind of when it was that beacon for me during the really dark times where you always kind of feel a little bit bogged down by the nasty weather and you're cold and under the blankies and you just want a warm cup of something to warm your cold heart.
Yeah. What you can think
So
about is
yeah,
lying on a warm rock in the sunshine. Yeah.
that's right.
Even
Yeah.
goths like me feel the cold. We've actually just had our first day of really nice sunshine today. I've had the doors open, the windows open, as Maddie's been sitting out in the garden sunning herself. Oh, it's been lovely. So nice.
Yeah. As you can see, a big patch of sunshine behind me. That's rare for where I'm from.
Well, thank you so much for I think I'm the first person to see this outside of friends and family, aren't I?
Yes,
Thank
you
you
are.
for giving me the opportunity to have a first look at it. I've really enjoyed it, and best of luck with this Kickstarter. I'm so hoping it takes off for you. I think it's going to be a really popular deck once people see more of the images. And I will link all of your information down below to your Kickstarter. And I know you've been posting some flip throughs and showing certain cards on Instagram as well, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. I've been doing a little bit of reels. And yeah, I'm trying my best to kind of tease the images out and see, kind of get some feelers for how people receive it. But I'm totally fine with whatever you'd like to share. So,
Well, I'm going to do a little reading. I might as well do it while you're here, hadn't I?
oh, I love
Let's
that.
let's pick a card. So I have already shuffled my deck because I'm me and I have to find out how it shuffles with my chubby little gnome fingers. Miss Maddie, shh. I had to shuffle the deck first. It actually does shuffle really, really easily, even with tiny fingers like mine. So I'm very happy with that. But when I was showing the cards, they weren't in order. I'd forgotten that would be the case. I do that every time. I shuffle the cards without even thinking, and then I'm like, oh, no, they're going to be out of order. So let's see what we get for this lovely transition. Okay, as the creator of the deck, obviously the next few days going to be a bit nail biting for you, very busy, very exciting as well, a little bit terrifying, I'm sure. Lots to do, lots to take on. What advice does the Oracle have for you for getting through these next few days? Have a look. Oh, we have resourceful.
Yes.
Couldn't have pulled a better card for a redhead.
Yeah.
Looking at what you have around you, taking in your scenery, taking in your kingdom. It's almost like he's looking at his little wildflower kingdom and saying, okay, what have I got that I can fix this issue with?
Yeah, that's
Very
so wonderful.
earthy, very
Yes.
earthy. Stay grounded.
Stay grounded. Foxes are known for their hunting abilities. They have a very wide range in their diet, so they're not picky eaters, and for that they thrive in the forest environment. So definitely use what I have available to me, and I'll be thriving just like Mr. Fox in his little foresty kingdom.
He does look very, very proud of himself, and hopefully that will be you in a few weeks as well. The Kickstarter starts on April the 1st and it runs till the end of the month. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, there's 30 days to pledge, and as we mentioned, you can pledge what you like. But if you want to snag one of the first editions, you've got to pledge within that 30 days, because otherwise you'll have to wait probably until I have them listed on Amazon. And I'm not 100% sure how fast that'll be.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for being here. It's been nice to introduce you to my audience. It's always nice to be able to put a face to the name and understand where the deck has come from and what the intention behind it is. And hopefully, fingers crossed, this is going to be a really successful launch for your very first big project.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me here. So.
I appreciate you coming to chat with me, and hopefully we'll see more big things from you in the future. Hashtag tarot deck.
Just for you.
Thank you, and see you soon.
Okay, sounds good. Bye.
So I hope you've enjoyed that little look at this new deck that's coming out. Do pop over to Kirstin's Kickstarter and have a look at what is going on and see what the options are for supporting the printing of this deck. And I will leave links to the Kickstarter and all of Kirstin's social media down below. As always, go and give her a follow on Instagram. She is putting up lots of posts and talking about the cards themselves and lots of other things over there. Thanks for joining me today, and I will see you again very soon. Bye.